Welcome to all the CXOs in this fresh episode of Dynamic CIO Talk Show, where we invite thought leaders, practitioners, and experts from the domain of enterprise IT and business. Now, before I introduce two of my wonderful guests on the show today, I would like to give you a small context to this conversation. So we are clearly in an era which we never thought we would be. We have also, apart from whatever socioeconomic hardships and challenges that we have faced, we have also leapfrogged at least 5 to 7 years as far as digital transformation is concerned. I may like to throw some data which is publicly available. By 2024, over 50% of all the IT spending will be directed for digital transformation and innovation. Well over 50% of global companies, global organizations would use more than one cloud for development and deployment purposes. It's already happening, but it will intensify in the near and long-term future. In the current era of digitally driven change, most organizations will need to reorient how they will work and how they will use the technology, how they will put the technology to use. Apart from many other things, open source has played and is going to play a very crucial and vital role. As per the IDC research, 41% of companies prefer using community or commercially supported open source software for provisioning net new infrastructure resources. This is a very heartening news. This trend is expected to continue to support the next wave of modern enterprise applications. So the power of open source is clearly unleashing innovation. We are now in the times of multiplied innovation, where businesses are moving beyond incremental transformation to a more widespread transformation. This requires them to leverage a whole new ecosystem of skills, of talent, of technology, making open source technology their natural choice. Now, to discuss this and many other issues, I have the pleasure of having with me Marshal, Correia, Vice President and General Manager, India, South Asia for Red Hat. And also Ameeta, who's the Senior Director, Solutions Architecture at Red Hat. Welcome, Marshal. Welcome, Ameeta, to this talk show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today on your show.
Great. So let me begin with a slightly warm-up questions. So I had it in mind to ask, I was very curious to know how has the Red Hat IBM story shaping up? How has it been shaping up? How has it progressed so far? Has the development helped Red Hat gain more traction in the enterprise space?
Yeah, sure. Before I kind of go there, I think what you introduced this show as is extremely relevant and apt. I just want to talk a little bit about that and then turn to your question. First thing first, I think this pandemic in some way has accelerated digital transformation. What would have taken decades is actually happening in months, right? There are disruptive business models. The only way to stay in business, to kind of get connected with your clients, partners, employees, post technology. And as you said, and you gave some factoids, that's very, very apt. And we are seeing that. I think digital transformation, digital acceleration, digitalization, whatever terminology that you want to use, it is there. And it is there across the industry. Governments are using it, various vertical industries across verticals. Take banking, telecom, manufacturing, any service industry this is there. And so it is basically working hand in hand with business. CIOs are now becoming in some way cloud aggregators. You spoke about multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. It is here to stay. So I think you summarized very well with factoids. turning to your question, I think this has worked very well for us. And as we said, as we committed on day one, Red Hat remains Red Hat. We are committed to open source. You said it earlier that open source lead to innovation, right? Inclusiveness typically leads to innovation. And we are an enterprise software company with solutions company with open source delivery model, right? So everything that we do is in the open source world. What we do is all the innovation that happens in the community, we make it relevant for enterprises. There's a lot that happens, but enterprise need to run reliably. Now, in terms of the acquisition of Red Hat by IBM, I think what it gave us is incremental reach. IBM is present across the globe. They have deep relationship with many clients. They bring in multiple domain skills, and that is really helped us to scale. Similarly, for IBM, one of the basic premise for this was not many workloads have moved to cloud. The easier part got done first. Only 20% roundabout have moved to cloud. So the rest of it needs a lot of heavy lifting, and clients want really to move in an open way. So when the earlier IT was built, it was built with available technology, right? Now clients want to have choice and freedom and flexibility and agility to kind of move their workload based on what the workload demand, and keep their data and apps when needed, where needed, be it public cloud, be it on-premise, be it bare metal, be it virtual private, whatever it is, right? So I think that was at the center of it. Now, IBM's hybrid cloud actually uses Red Hat technology. Their software uses technology, our technology. So their cloud uses our Openshift. So there are multiple ways this is really shaped well. It also reflects on our results. The quarterly results for Q2, Red Hat revenue growth was 20%, normalized for 17% for adjusted for currency. So that has also helped. So I think overall, it kind of has worked well.
No, great. I think, as a summary, executive summary of the entire conversation that I'm going to have with you, you have summarized it very well. And I would like Ameeta to add anything if you have, Ameeta.
I think Marshal articulated it very well, and we are very excited because while Red Hat is Red Hat, we get to scale with IBM, and that's really the additional aspect I would like.
Great. So Marshal, as you said, and I really like that bold comment that CIOs are and will be more of cloud aggregators. And the innovation will shape up, in various forms, using that shift to the cloud, and it is going to play a very vital role in the enterprises. And you also made a very, very valid comment that a lot happens in the open source space, and Red Hat is what that makes it relevant for the enterprises to use it commercially. And there is certainly a shift that's happening at the customer's end, that they want to do it in a very open way, and that's where the innovation is mostly focused. So besides IBM, is Red Hat also partnering with other hardware and software players? Which are some of these noteworthy partnerships that you would like to talk about? How do they help the enterprise customers?
Absolutely. Red Hat works a lot with partners. The basic premise of being open source development model is you work with many ecosystem partners, right? So when any project gets converted into a product, you need to work with various OEMs to make sure that the currency is maintained. So all the leading OEMs, okay, we work with them, including people who make systems, storage, chips, everything, right? So that is one part of it. Second is we are at the front and center of digital transformation, right? So finally, someone has to bring this technology to bear for our clients. So these are the solution providers. These are the GSIs, both Indian as well as global. Okay, these are the ISVs, right? Who actually build the software. So and also finally making it work for our clients. So the entire ecosystem that we have. So all the leading OEMs, we work with them, all the ISVs, all the GSIs, and besides that, the hyperscalers, the public cloud providers. I think since the cornerstone of our strategy is open hybrid cloud, and this is again a new term we hear, multi-cloud, we hear hybrid cloud, but from our perspective, it is open hybrid cloud, right? So you should have freedom and choice based on workload, not to get tied down to any particular cloud environment or any particular cloud provider, right? So you have that flexibility. So absolutely, yes, we remain neutral. While we work with IBM, we work with other partners as well, and we have kind of deep relationship, deep partnership, which actually helps a lot for our enterprise customers. I can cite as we move along some of the examples where this partnership have come to play, and they have benefited the enterprise clients.
So you used a term. I mean, hybrid cloud is being talked about across the genre of enterprises, because there's no one cloud that fits, whether it is public or private, and therefore for different workloads, companies prefer different cloud environments, and therefore hybrid is a story which is matured and which is very, very sustainable as well. So how do you differentiate between a normal hybrid cloud conversation from an open hybrid cloud that you just spoke about?
So basically, it's about various way you build your IT system and infrastructure. Traditionally, everything, as you know, has been on premises. Then it moved to from on premise to hosting, right? Then it moved to virtual private cloud, etc. And then today you talk to everyone, and they have some way of using public cloud for various kind of workloads, right? I mean, some form. They have decided that this applications or this workload will move to cloud. If you talk to many of our clients and when we ask them, do we have a hybrid cloud strategy? Everyone agrees that we can't be completely in public cloud, or we are not going to be completely on premise. I think some research shows that many have actually done it, and some 54% of them are going to pursue this over a year. So that's I think everyone is kind of agreeing that hybrid cloud is a way to go. When we say open hybrid cloud, what we mean is you need to have a flexibility from wherever you want to move, okay, from one environment to other environment in an open way, right? And that is where our Kubernetes container platform, which is Openshift, is coming to play, right? It is a platform, okay, and it comes with many things for a developer to be effective, right? It is available across major public clouds, so you can run it on premise, you can run it on any cloud that you want, and there are many Indian cloud providers also who have adapted it, right? So it is global providers on premises, and many of the ISVs are also adapting it. So that's what I mean by doing it in open way. And I think it's not just about, many times we just talk about technology, but this is, I think the way you build cloud native application needs a lot of collaboration. It is DevSecOps. Okay. So the cultural part and people part is also very important. I mean, getting those skills, enabling those team to actually adapt to this technology, making application from a legacy to cloud native needs a way to do it. And we also have with our consulting services a way to do kind of walking them through it, take a workload and then do a kind of an open innovation lab, so they see it and they feel it, and then eventually they go for it, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Rahul, if I can just add.
Go ahead, please.
What Marshal said, so while hybrid cloud and the way, companies landed up using a hybrid cloud strategy might have even been accidental, right? As they, grew organically and they had some on-premise stuff and then they decided to move to the cloud. So they may have ended up having that hybrid cloud, kind of a environment that they landed themselves into, heterogeneous environment, if I may say. But when we say open hybrid cloud, the very basic premise is open, which means it has to be an open architecture. It has to be a truly flexible experience for the customers. And therefore, when we say open, I would like to, stress on the fact that that gives them all the innovation that comes from the community, that stable innovation via open source software, and then open standards so that you can have broad compatibility. And then we have these open APIs as well, so that you can have very flexible integrations. So that really will then make it a truly open hybrid cloud that will allow companies the freedom and those things that Marshal talked about to deliver with speed, stability, flexibility, scale, etc. that we are striving to help customers with.
Interesting. And again, I'm a little intrigued to digress a little bit and ask both of you, are we trying to establish a correlation between open innovation and open source here?
Well, there's a lot of innovation that happens in the open source community for sure. The kind of innovation that cannot be limited to, one organization, one individual, etc. Right? So there is a lot of innovation. There are millions of projects in the open source community that are driving that innovation. So definitely I would say there is a correlation. There is a lot of innovation happening in the open source community, and there are a lot of projects. And what Red Hat does is we curate some of that. We play a steering role in some of these projects, and then make those products that are consumable for our enterprise customers. Because innovation is happening so rapidly, the pace of change is also very rapid, right? There are projects that are getting, the life cycle is so dynamic, things are getting changed every few weeks. Now it is very difficult for an enterprise to be able to match that kind of pace. So we help to harden that, bring it to our enterprise customers. And very importantly, we also take that advocacy back to the community, which means feedback from our enterprise customers that can help steer some of the project teams for future roadmaps and, the kind of things that, industries would like to see, companies would like to see. There is a relation.
Great. I mean, this is a great digression. One more question, which is again drifting away from the list of questions that I had. Marshal, you just mentioned that, how interestingly and how intrinsically Red Hat is working with enterprises when it comes to changing or maybe transforming their legacy and making them digital native ready. So can you throw some more light on that?
Yeah, so basically, first of all, you can't throw away legacy, okay? A legacy has been built over years, okay? So it has to coexist, and it'll gradually kind of work. So there are a couple of things you need to do. You need to make legacy work efficiently, right? And there is a need to automate that because during the pandemic, the way you run it, the way you maintain it had to be done, enable it. Everything had to be some way be available to users using app. So that is one part of the transformation. I can talk about, typically, a bank will have a core banking system,
Right.
or insurer will have a core insurance app, right? Similarly, in manufacturing, there'll be ERP that will be prevalent. Now, the first part of transformation that happened was in a customer experience area, right? And now it is moving to the core, and it is happening at a scale, right? So what I'm saying is we are working, there are places where we are working with legacy to modernize it in certain way, right? So their customer and employees and partners can get a digital experience. That is one. Now, it is some of the clients have also adopting core transformation, right? They are trying to disaggregate the core. Because see, one of the basic issue is the pace of change. And, the change becomes available to the client or a customer or a partner. How soon you can make it visible, that depends on how soon you can build your application. Okay, and that is very important. So to answer your question, we are working with legacy to modernize legacy, and we are also working to make cloud native. And this is of course with our partners. So some of the partners who are core providers, they are working on it. Some of the ISVs, one interesting case would be UPI. You would have seen the scale of UPI in India, right? If I remember right, last month, August transaction was 355 crore. Now look at the scale. How do you cope up with the scale, right? So we are working with some of the providers to modernize those applications, containerize those applications, right? So you can scale, and also it gives a lot of elasticity, a lot of flexibility. I hope I answered your question.
No, most certainly. I think these drifting away and digressions are actually getting more meaningful, getting this conversation into a more meaningful direction. So you very briefly touched upon about Openshift, and if we talk about the latest version of Openshift, it is designed to integrate new levels of security and manageability that will simplify DevSecOps. That also you very briefly touched upon. So can you tell a little bit more about the developments in this Openshift space?
Yeah, I'll pass it on to Ameeta, but I'll just give you a brief view on this. This is at the heart of Open Hybrid Cloud. Okay, this is a platform. This is a way of building applications, and this gives you ability to move across multiple clouds. It is about hybrid cloud in some way is a future data center, so to say, right? And that's exactly how this is going to shape. We have built a lot on it. It has data, it has apps. We have actually strengthened it further. Security becomes extremely important. So we had an acquisition, but Ameeta will actually kind of deep dive a little bit more onto it.
Sure, please go ahead, Ameeta.
Sure. So, secure DevOps practices, Marshal had talked about how much and how important it is to get people bought into the process as well, right? So when we talk about DevSecOps, it's absolutely critical to enterprises when they have to rapidly develop, deploy, all the digital innovations. And all this talk of containers and, hybrid cloud technologies that have proliferated, it has only added to the complexity, in terms of the security challenges for customers, right? So we have been looking over the last several years in terms of how can we then make it easier. So where we ended up paying very close attention to is how are customers actually securing their workloads, okay? And we've also increasingly realized how critically important it is that we have to shift left, which means we have to integrate security within every part of the development and deployment life cycle, and it should not just be an afterthought. So with that in mind, we have been working to add some very, very core capabilities where we can efficiently identify, address issues, much earlier in the life cycle. So if, for example, we look at a typical DevSecOps life cycle, right? You have security teams. The security teams are worried about, cybercrime attacks and, what kind of policies they have to put in place, what kind of regulations their industry is governed by. And then you have the architects that need to look at what are some of these policies now that have to be implemented, and can we and how do we ensure that when you have legacy environments and you have this cloud native way of doing things, and you have all these containers that are coming to the picture, and over a period of time, when you're developing with containers, there's going to be a sprawl of containers as well. How are we going to manage all of this, and can we introduce automation so that all this can become very streamlined? And then the operations team has to look at ensuring that the infrastructure is up and running at any point of time. Otherwise, it is like a bad customer experience, or in some cases, penalties as well. So, and then the developers who have to make sure that they have, the right tooling, and, they definitely want to be using, frameworks and things like that, that can actually make their lives simpler, right? So what we've really worked on doing is, how can we make sure that there is visibility across all of this, in the life cycle? So, what we've done is, one is the capability that is there within the Red Hat portfolio itself, which is inbuilt right from the operating system layer itself up to Openshift, which is the Kubernetes, a platform, and everything else that we built into our stack. But in addition, what we have done is we've also certified a number of our partners so that we are able to give a holistic view. And one very interesting thing that we did in the recent past, specific to DevSecOps, is that we created a complete taxonomy, of all the security capabilities that an organization would possibly require across roles. And in that framework, we have identified, 9, for example, security categories, and within that there are some 32 methods that are there. And that framework places not only our built-in capabilities, but our partners as well, so that, we are able to address the complete scope of what is required. And these could range from, analyzing applications, compliance, what data controls we have, how do you do the auditing and monitoring, how do you do role-based access, etc., etc. And specific to your question on what are the capabilities within Openshift itself, specific to DevSecOps, we have kind of bundled these capabilities thanks to that acquisition that Marshal talked about, StackRox, and some additional capabilities that we had. So we are talking about Red Hat OpenShift Platform Plus now. So in this Platform Plus, what we have done is we are trying to give customers a single hybrid cloud platform that can help them to build, run, and manage all their applications with comprehensive security. So Red Hat OpenShift itself is inheriting all the security features of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and it gives that consistent hybrid cloud, with built-in security. Then in addition, we have what is called Red Hat Quay, which is a registry. Now, because containers are the way of doing things, you have to be very, very clear about content, right? What is it that's going into the containers? So when you have a registry, this becomes a registry now where you can build, you can store, you can scan containers, you can deploy them, and it becomes a reliable source of truth of where your containers are coming from. They're certified images that are coming from trusted sources. And then we have this advanced security cluster itself for Kubernetes. So what that does is, you can kind of run your applications anywhere, and across the build cycle at various points, it puts all those security gates to make sure that through the build, deploy, etc., you are doing it in a very secure manner. And then over a period of time, you have so many containers, and therefore these containers are running in clusters. These clusters are in a heterogeneous environment, from your data centers to the edge to public clouds, etc. Then the whole value really comes in when you're deploying applications, and you have to do it at scale, and you have multiple clusters. There, enforcing the policies becomes so important. So this is really what we're trying to build in, through the native capabilities, as well as through integrations with partners. And once this has been deployed, really what customers will then have is a complete visibility into the network traffic, the deployments, what are the critical system level events that are happening, the risk profiling of whatever are they running deployments, configuration management, looking at have we applied all the policies during build and deploy time, assessment of compliance, and so many other things that you'll really require to build a really scalable DevOps system. So
I mean, you have opened a Pandora's box for me, because this requires a very different conversation. I mean, the taxonomy that you're talking about, the partners, I mean, you have not revealed the names of partners, but I'm very keen at some other point, because otherwise Marshall will think that I have hijacked the whole agenda of this conversation. However,
it's true. And just to add, I mean, this itself can take a session, in my opinion.
It will. I mean, I'm guaranteeing you it will, because this is very interesting.
Just to add to what Ameeta said, first of all, it has been built ground up. Okay, so that's one big thing. Second is Red Hat Linux is at the core of it. So everything that you get with Linux, the security, the robustness, the scalability is there. Third, it has been in existence for some few years already, right? And there are lots of applications and workloads which have already moved. The fourth part, it is available across multiple public cloud platforms, and it has been adopted by many local providers. And that is how Forrester has actually rated this in top kind of a quadrant in their assessment as to how they see Openshift as a Kubernetes platform, right? And today in this transformation, developer plays a very important role. And the time it takes for a developer to start the environment and to work with him and to work with ecosystem, that level of automation and orchestration becomes very, very important. And that's what it provides, right? Just in a summary, some of the
great. I mean, as I said, that I will do some more research at my end, and will come back. After a short duration, I'll come back on a very specific discussion on this topic. Thank you very much, Ameeta, to bring it up and speak so passionately about it. A couple of last questions, because I think I'll also have to wrap it up in time for all of us. So I would like to talk about Red Hat Enterprise Linux for SAP Solutions is now available on SAP stores. If you can tell me, what is it, what does it mean, and how will it help the enterprise customers?
So can I take that, Marshall?
Yeah, go ahead, Ameeta.
Okay. So Red Hat and SAP, first of all, we share a very solid alliance, that goes back, more than 2 decades. So we have a history of co-innovation. And incidentally, we were the first Linux distribution to run SAP more than 20 years ago. And both Red Hat and SAP, we continue to be customers and champions of each other's solutions. So where the opportunity today is that a lot of SAP customers have embarked on a journey to move to SAP S/4HANA, which is SAP's newest ERP solution, right? And for that, they have to convert to a Linux distribution. Now, when an SAP customer is going to choose Red Hat Enterprise Linux, then what they're really getting is they can take advantage of that entire technology portfolio, and they can move towards standardization of the workloads, not only for their SAP environment, but everything else as well. Because customers, while they may be needing to move to SAP S/4HANA, they also have the digital transformation journey, which includes everything else as well, right? So in such a scenario, Red Hat Enterprise Linux for SAP, and Linux comes with smart management, insights, etc. So you can actually manage your SAP landscape across your heterogeneous environments. You can become more nimble, and while you can support your entire environment, as I mentioned, and you can simplify with one single solution rather than multiple solution. The other most important thing that we bring to the table is you can monitor proactively your SAP, because we have set up some very, very specific some 600 odd SAP specific rules that are available in Red Hat Insights. And Red Hat Insights is a tool that helps you to do proactive monitoring of your environment and suggested remediations that you can just apply. And when you kind of automate it along with Ansible, a lot of those remediations can then be applied automatically by, and so this helps that whole effort that customers may have. And another very important point is that we provide customers with the freedom of choice on where they want to run their SAP. Is it on Intel? Is it on IBM Power P or Z? System Z? They want to do it on-prem. They want to do it on one of our many certified cloud providers. So this in a nutshell is what we provide. So you are protecting your SAP environment, you're running it smoothly, and we're making sure that we're giving very, very specific recommendations for SAP applications that can alert you if some configuration is not up to the mark, etc., so that you can get the insights across your entire system. And now with a common foundation, now you're running not only your SAP workloads, but everything else as well through one unified platform for visibility. That's in a nutshell.
Okay, so I would like to come to the end of this wonderful conversation. I was wondering if I can extend it by maybe 30 more minutes, but just to make it a little more crisper, we'll have to wrap it up. But finally, Marshal, let me ask you about some of Red Hat's recent or high-profile customers in India. What is Red Hat's footprint here? How do they use Red Hat stacks to speed up their digital transformation? I mean, you very briefly mentioned about the UPI, but there may be others as well.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we have clients across various verticals in government, okay, with various departments. We are engaged with telcos, banks, insurance companies, manufacturing across, right? I'll give you a few examples. Take telcos. As you would have seen, a lot of development is happening across telco. More so, it has become more relevant with 5G, and the operators are getting ready, and also with this pandemic, because that's a core service which is needed. So telcos have built what they call as universal cloud or a telco cloud. So we are engaged with both Airtel and Vodafone, where we have built this cloud using our OpenStack platform. So typically, a lot of intelligence was in the switch, right? And now what has happened is that has been created a common platform on which you can carry various workloads, right? So obviously that gives them efficiency. You can do a lot of B2B, B2C automation, and the scalability, right? Reliability. So that is one area where we are kind of engaged with both Vodafone and Airtel in telco. I think we basically have some very critical platform with client need to work, run their workloads. So for example, National Stock Exchange, their workloads run on Red Hat, right? Red Hat Linux. You take banks, multiple banks, where we are engaged, where they have built a kind of a hybrid cloud or use UPI to multiple applications, be it a digital engagement hub, some cases modernization of core, multiple part. Take insurance. We engage with Manipal Singha in their digital journey, onboarding of partners, improving the customer services, right? So that was another area where we work. Then in government, and Ameeta will cite few clients in government. So in all of this, we have multiple offerings, okay? It is Red Hat Linux, Openshift, our automation with Ansible, services, both training and consulting, and on hybrid cloud, basically both apps and data. Ameeta, maybe you can dwell on some of the government clients as well.
Yeah, sure. And extension of what Marshal was saying, right? It depends on what is the problem the customer is trying to solve. So in the case of EPFO, for example, Employees Provident Fund Organization, they had a very distributed IT landscape that was sprawling across 120 or so of their field offices, and they had many challenges. So what they did was they created multiple virtualized data centers. They came up with one common foundation with RHEL as their operating system. And then they use some of our middleware technologies as a way to kind of integrate and consolidate and automate what they already have, so that they can actually save on the number of resources that they were using. And now they're far more nimble in terms of how they're going to handle customer requests. And then we also had the Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation, IRCTC. Yep. So they wanted to have a completely refreshed e-ticketing system, and they wanted to make sure that customers have some really good unparalleled service and accessibility, right, to the whole online ticketing platform. So after doing their app migration and modernization using Red Hat technologies and our consulting services as well that help them to kind of implement this in a short period of time, they have now been able to bring in several efficiencies in their project. So these are a couple of ones that I can think of from government. In addition, even from an aviation, I can think of Indigo, where they had several off-the-shelf products, and they had several homegrown applications, etc. And they were looking at a situation where they wanted to be nimble, agile, to add new features and capabilities. And that's where, again, they looked at some of Red Hat integration technologies like Red Hat Fuse, etc., to integrate all these disparate applications and all the siloed data resources they had, so that then they have one unified platform. And they also went with the foundation of Red Hat Enterprise Linux.
Great. Wonderful speaking to both of you, but I really missed these two red hats that are there in your respective homes. And I should have actually begun my conversation I'm very intrigued to know, this is of course the logo and the symbol of the company, which is it known for, but interesting.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Certainly, and thank you for having us. As I said, it was a very interesting conversation. Just to leave some thoughts, we are committed to open source, right? Open source brings innovation. We make it relevant for our clients. Open hybrid cloud is where we are doing a lot of work. It is about cloud native ops. It is about platforms like Red Hat Linux. It's about automation. We are at the front and center of digital transformation, and we work with ecosystem of partners to make it relevant for our clients. And we spoke about a couple of clients right here in India, South Asia, where we are trying to partner with them to help them with their journey. Thank you for having us.
Excellent. Thank you so much to both you and Ameeta, both of you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.